The moment is here, you can stop your search. It's Comics by Perch.
Hey everybody, this is Perch, and a lot of people sent me links to this, and they sent it to me saying, "Oh man, I bet you're going to be angry about this." And in some cases, it's like, "Please, please, please, do a complete rant on this tweet." So, what is the tweet in general? Is this another case of just somebody saying something stupid? Well, yes, it is, but it's a little bit different. But spoilers. I'm not going to get angry in the sense of this. This is exhaustion. The emotion I felt after reading this was just like deep, long sigh. It wasn't anger. It wasn't rage. I mean, I don't know. In part because it's not surprising. So the only surprising part were the people who liked this thing. There's people who like this tweet. Like, what are you thinking? Don't like this. But anyway, this is from Tom Brevoort, who's our editor, senior editor in chief. He's our big man at Marvel. And for a while, there was this whole bit where it was like, try and stump Tom. The idea was that Tom was so knowledgeable about the Marvel Universe that you could come in and do a trivia contest. I think they did this at some cons and some other places. It was like, see if you could outwit Tom about Marvel trivia. Today, I think lots of people could outwit Tom. I think that's pretty safe bet. I also think the Exalted Speed guy over there on Twitter could easily smoke anyone at this point, but enough blowing smoke there. So Tom Brevoort writes, I went out to the comic shop today for free comic book day and realized that the last time I had been in a comic shop was last year's free comic book day, and that I still had unread books from that trip. All right, Tom Brevoort is the executive editor at Marvel Entertainment, senior editor, and I don't know, where do you begin with that? So, let's count up all the positives. I mean, I guess he's honest, so honesty's good. He went to a comic shop. That's good. If you work in comics, you should show up there once in a while. You were there for free comic book day. Okay, it's a marketing thing. Good. You indicated that you still had unread books. So in the most positive way possible, if I'm looking at the glass half full aspect to this anywhere, then you took comics home with you. So you went home with comics. All right. I mean, at least you didn't just go in and then turn around and walk out. But yeah, I mean, you don't need to put in the comments that I'm reaching to try and make a positive situation, because of course I'm reaching. This is an absurd thing to write. And again, I don't get outraged about it. I'm just exhausted by it. I think what are the problems with this? We can go down the list, in terms of common sense. Hey, if you're a major representative of Marvel, then you should, whether you actually are or not, lie about the comics that you're reading. You should be talking about how you're reading everything, how you can't wait to get to the next issue, how you, do you think when Stan Lee would go on and on about, hey, true believers, we're putting out the most amazing mags that I've ever seen in my life? He didn't actually believe that. We all know that. Stan Lee was like, I got done reading a comic and I was so excited and juiced up, I turned it back to the first page and read it again. There's no way Stan actually did that. But it sounded good. And it's like if you're picking from option A of over enthusiasm or option B, I didn't even read all the comics in the last year. That's I'll take the positive, right? You lead with your best foot forward. So even if this is true that you hadn't been to a comic shop in a year, you don't say that out loud. That's along the same lines of Chris Conroy saying, "I hate answering emails," when your job is an editor who answers emails, or I got so mad at Elon Musk buying Twitter that I considered removing Twitter from my work computer. First of all, it's a browser, so I don't know what are you removing exactly? You're removing the bookmark in Chrome. What are you doing? But regardless, the lack of common sense here for Tom to write this. I mean, I was that stupid a long time ago. Now I'm just sad and disappointed. This is disappointed Dad Perch. What are you doing? What are you doing, man? No, this is not correct. I think a prerequisite for the job, and you go and you kind of you think about what Tom does, and you look at the people like Tom's connected to, and kind of what his overall, state is with some of things. I just, it isn't, to me, it's not okay if you're not leading with comics. I think if you're, a junior editor or a somebody who works on marketing campaigns for Marvel, you don't have to live and breathe it. But when you're in a senior position, when you're Brevoort or Casada or Cebulski or Jim Lee or Marie Javins, or Chris Conroy, I mean, he's Black Label, senior editor. I think that you have to some extent, have your persona, have your public persona to feel like you are really in and alive with comics. When when you go to the LinkedIn or you go to Twitter and you see some of these things, you should see somebody who is promoting the company, sharing videos, flagging the press releases, putting it in their bio. That you should see somebody who's very enthusiastically championing comics. It's how you recruit new people into the company. It's how you, at that job level, that's what you do. Let alone, at least give the people who work for you the impression that you're actually reading stuff. To say, I went to the comic shop today for Free Comic Day and realized I hadn't been in a year. The last time I've been to a comic shop was a year. What are retailers supposed to take from that? When Marvel says, hey, we're your partners, we're your buddy, and you say, yeah, but your executive editor, your head of editorial, didn't go to a comic shop for a year. And you can say, oh, well, COVID times. But no, COVID, people are now getting on planes without masks. You can get to a comic shop, especially when your business is comics. Because inherent in this is also a number of other admissions. Like, I haven't talked to any retailers in a year. Maybe you have an email, but have you gone into a store and looked at the environment, seen what's going on? There's been plenty of stories about senior executives at Tesla, including Elon, but also people who work for Microsoft, people who work for Apple. The executives regularly visit their own stores. Why do they do that? So they can see how the brand is coming across, so they can immerse in the environment that they are all profiting off of, that they're making their cash off of. Go to a comic store. Brevoort lives within 10 miles of multiple comic stores. I do not know his exact address, so I am guessing. But if you live anywhere near the New York area, you are within 10 miles of multiple comic stores. So what is going on here? And then what if you're a creator or an editor working on books for Marvel, and you see your boss say something like, I've still got unread books from that trip. I hope those unread books aren't Marvel books, but we don't know. It's ambiguous what he's doing here. And, that would be incredibly demoralizing if you worked for this guy. If you were involved in this office, to know, I'm not actually reading the product. It's a leap. He didn't say this, but if he's not going into shops for a year, if he's still got unread books from that trip, then it's hard to believe. Unfortunately, the burden of proof would sit now with Tom, that he is actually reading the books his own company is producing. Meaning he doesn't have to go to a shop to do that. He's seeing pages. He's able to see the comics as they come in. But do you think he's reading them? I would guess no. I would guess that based on this, and again, I come back to, and somehow you thought that was okay to tweet. So make no mistake, I'm angry about it. As a retailer, I'm angry about it. But I'm more than that. It's unfortunately, this is living up to the expectations that you kind of had anyway. The expectations that there's the people at the top are asleep at the wheel. The baffling part of this is they're willing to post publicly that they're asleep at the wheel, and then have people respond to that like, "Oh yeah, that's relatable." If it is, it's relatable that somebody whose job it is to read and curate comics, both their own company and also keep tabs on the competition, so they can be the most powerful, most the best comic company they can be. If you have a senior editor job at Big Two or Image or wherever it happens to be, you should be reading all the comics. Yes, all of them. And if you are too slow a reader that there's no way I can get through 400 comics in a month, your job is in comics. You should be reading all of those comics. If you read too slowly to get through that amount of comics, you should, again, really question if this is the job for you. How is this relatable? If you were a plumber and I haven't actually touched a pipe or any kind of plumbing tools in a year, people would assume you're not doing anything. Now, maybe you're just doing the accounting, doing the books, maybe it's something else, but it wouldn't be a good look. If you're the president of Toyota and you post out that it's like, well, I actually I haven't driven a car in 2 years. Nobody would appreciate that. Nobody in the company would appreciate that. It is probably true. If you're the president or general manager of a car company, pulling in 7 figures, 8 figures, people are probably driving you around. Still, you and I would go out there and say, I don't drive cars anymore. I haven't driven in years. You wouldn't write that because you'd sound like a dope. I don't know. I believe him. I believe him that he hasn't done this. It's just sad. So I apologize. If you're clicking on this video hoping I'd be all angry and fiery, no, this is not surprising, and it's it's bad. It's sad. It's terrible judgment. Can we get leadership who has good judgment? Because come on, even if there's a perfectly good explanation for this, even if Tom was to shoot back like, well, I'm reading comps all the time, so going to a comic shop and picking a comic that I've already read because I helped produce it, why would I read it a second time? Like, even if there's a good logical explanation to this, it shows terrible judgment to be a leader in a company and talk about how you haven't stepped foot in a shop for a year and you haven't read all the comics that you got a year ago. That none of that looks good. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below, and thanks for listening.